Toyota quality seems to possibly have taken a bit of a shift. I mean, with the recent advent of what's going on with the 3.4 liter twin turbo V6s, some of the electrical gremlins and tuning you're finding in some of the other vehicles, Corolla Cross, not to mention GR Corollas blowing engines, there seems to be a few issues here and there creeping in. The real question is the quality any different in the new Toyotas than the old Toyotas? I mean, we're going to do a quick comparison today because we've got a brand new Camry. Ours is a 2022. We've loved it. We love it. It's still doing good for us. It's relatively reliable, and the only real issue we've had is the service network, and I've shared that story many times over. But ultimately, other than the servicing itself, which is an independent from the actual corporate company, the company, you've got to wonder, are they building the same quality into their vehicles? I was able to have a real close up and close look at the brand new Toyota 4Runner. Now, it's still made in Japan, and many argue that that's the best, most robust vehicle that Toyota makes today, and I would generally agree with that. But let's look at an older Toyota like this, and then we'll compare that relatively to a brand new 4Runner. I know I can honestly say to our Camry, I've heard from a lot of you out there that said, you know, the older Camrys didn't use a prop rod, they actually used struts to lift up the hood. So there's a little corner cutting there. I've also heard of some issues with sharp edges. I know even ours on the doors right in here, this edge is sort of sharp. When you open up the door, it's got sharp edges and it feels a little bit unrefined, even in our Camry. Now the Camry's reliable, we've had no issues, but it makes you wonder about the overall quality. We've never heard of engine failures like we hear of over 100,000 engine failures now in the 3.4. That's getting front page news. Toyota's pretty good about, you know, working through the bugs, working through the changes and the new models, and getting something that's reliable and durable. But unfortunately, initially we heard the new Tundras with that 3.4, it was only supposed to be a 22 model year issue, then a 23. Now we're seeing on forums it's 24 and beyond. So it's clearly there's something more going on there, and we definitely like to understand what that is.
Life's too short to drive boring cars.
I mean, right here, let's start at the front. Even just doing that, they seem to have a solidity to them. Pretty solid looking mirror. Of course, as we go around, also this is an older vehicle, so there's no rust on it, which is a good sign. The alloys, well, they could use a little love there, but that sounds solid. And the Highlander has always been a popular one for Toyota, but this feels like a very, very solid vehicle. And from my own personal experience, looking inside has always been an experience of basic plastic knobs and buttons. And when you look around, everything is huge buttons, huge knobs, easy to read, very tactile, very durable, and very, very solid. But a few years ago, I managed to review a Nightshade edition of the outgoing 4Runner, and I was very impressed. Now, the steering was a little vague, a little wallowy, but you're gonna get that for something that's dedicated for heavy articulation to go crawling over rocks and humps and bumps for off-roading. That's what the vehicle's meant for. So I didn't expect it to be ultra precise. It's not a Ferrari, it's an off-roader. But other than that, the knobs, the buttons were solid. The engine just ticked over and it ran perfectly. Everything inside felt well built, relatively well put together. And I think most people can appreciate the 4Runners have been one of the most robust, long-lasting Toyotas that they've ever made. And I was very much impressed with that Toyota, with that 4Runner. Even the owner who lent it to me to review it even questioned, should he have bought a Lexus? Should he have bought a Toyota? And he decided to go with the Toyota because it was sort of that last naturally aspirated V6 and the end of the breed. He definitely liked it for its off-roading prowess, and it just felt very solid. And I did too. I thought it was a very robust vehicle. I loved it, and definitely the quality felt astounding.
With the Toyota 4Runner here, for example, that features a 4-liter V6 engine that produces about 270 horsepower and about 273 pound-feet of torque. Now, while it's not a race engine, it does have enough motivation to move the SUV along just fine. So let's slide on in here. The first thing you can appreciate with the high sills, everything feels very beefy. Now, it is a departure from a lot of the SUVs or the smaller mid-size crossovers that you see on the market today. The vehicle feels very truck-like. Everything is very sturdy and beefy. You don't have all the sleek console. What you do have is very functional, all your controls at hand, everything where you need it exactly to be. You've got your 4-wheel drive controls down here, and you'll notice you've got perforated seats for heating, cooling, and accent stitching throughout. Nice leather finish here as well. So as we pan around the cabin here, it's a very simplistic approach to controls, which makes it beefy and not finicky. All the controls are very sturdy. These buttons are very solid, with a very nice sturdy feel to them that doesn't suggest they're going to break down. You've got 4 low, 4 high here. You've got options here for switching that and locking it into place as well. You've got all the controls here. You've got the heated seat controls here, one for the passenger and one for the driver. Regulates because of the ventilated perforated seats that you have here. As you can see, all your controls, AC, everything's here nicely laid out. Again, very simplistic, easy to, you don't have to go deep into a menu to operate heater control like often you do in a BMW.
So as you can see, that vehicle felt very robust, felt like it was very sturdy, and there was no disappointment. Now let's take a closer look at the brand new version of the Toyota 4Runner. Brand new. This was a 2025 sitting in the car lot, and I had a closer look at it. Now, first thing to note before I show you the video is the fact that now, like an SR5 used to in the older generation, give you sunroof, give you leather, give you a bunch of features, and they would just ramp up from there. But now the SR5 is basically same price point, but they strip out options. So it's what they do is they pull options back, give you the same model lineup. You're thinking you're getting the same vehicle, but you're getting a more thinned out, stripped out version. So that's the first thing I want to make a note of. But here is the latest and the greatest generation of the 4Runner. You let me know.
Let's see what the quality is like here.
So as you can see from my personal experience, it's not quite the same. That being said, it's a whole new redesigned model. Some of the other models our Camry we're absolutely happy with. And so a lot of models like the 4Runners do change, and they are going through a change. Same with the Tacomas and the Tundras. They're going through a major change. The Corollas seem to be pretty well put together, as do the Camrys. So it's a bit of a more of a hit and miss. But overall, I don't personally feel like Toyota is really shedding quality, reliability, but it's like anything. Everybody has to always look for those fine little areas to trim a little bit of cost for the sake of being competitive. That said, if you're looking for one of the most reliable cars that's still old, true, and tried and true, Mazda. Mazda now is building a turbo and a non-turbo 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine like in this vehicle, made it up to a 6-speed automatic or in some cases 6-speed manual to some of their Mazda 3s. And now, to me, these are some of the most reliable cars on the market because of their simplicity. With all of that said, be sure to check out right there. Check out my dealer experience with our Toyota. Ouch. It wasn't the most amazing. We love the car, but we didn't necessarily love the treatment we got. Hope to see each and every one of you in the next one, everybody. See you then. Bye-bye.